We grant to all those submitting to the labor of this journey, personally and at their expense, full forgiveness of their sins, of which they have been moved to penitence in voice and heart. And as reward of this just, we promise them a greater share of eternal salvation.
Welcome back to the Dark Ages. The bitter crusade is mounting. When last we joined the characters, the Coterie had been attending the deliberations and speaking amongst themselves and newly scrutinized allies as to their stance on the Fourth Crusade. But in the nightly deliberations, it leaves little time for one to feed. And even outside of these council meetings, events transpire which seek to shape the future, the Cainite political landscape, and the entirety of the world in the future. When last followed the story of the Coterie, Aimery de Champagne had been pulled aside in the mid their deliberation meetings. Tonight, we will join him to see what words were said, and furthermore, what the others do in the nights that follow. Allow me to set the scene. Aimery de Champagne, as you were following with your coterie back to the chambers which the Prince Narcisse had provided unto you, you were courted aside, pulled away from your coterie with a request of conversation from another Cainite, one of those Ventrue aides to the Lord von Saschen, who admittedly, the argument of which you liked, who wished to further speak with you. As such, you find yourself walking down the lengthy halls, only sparsely illuminated by the occasional candle or torch fire, the sounds of your footsteps reverberating off of the stone as you walk at a slow, measured pace, easily able to hear the reverberation of sound from both your words and your walking. You're not the only ones conspiring in such a fashion. Many move to different rooms, and yet with the faint smell of the burning tallow from the candles, you engage in your conversation.
With his arms clasped together, his heightened senses active, Aimery would shuffle along the floor, speaking to the aide occasionally. I apologize if I have offended your lord.
He presents to you a modest smile before he inclines his head. You have no need to worry. I am far from offended, and neither is my lord. However, I could not help but observe that during the council meeting you were perhaps the most receptive to my lord's words. I was wondering, monsieur, if a man such as yourself understands of the strategy of which he speaks. You seem to be a man which has, with his left hand braced behind his back, along his waistline, he rolls his right wrist in the air between you two, experienced the tragedies of the Crusades and war.
This is not my first time dealing with the... I've been a part of the Crusades since the second. I look over towards his general direction. I was at the siege of Edessa.
Tragedy, Edessa, and the fate which befell it in the end, burnt down as it was. But as a man who has seen the Second Crusade, and surely you'll remember, that what crippled it so was the lack of strategy on the part of the Crusaders. The division between the Crusade to the north and to Iberia, it divided the Crusaders.
That has long been the problem with most of the Crusades, I can see. There are too many commanders out there seeking their own personal gain, not interested in the greater whole. Even sometimes acting against the best interest.
Of that you are very wise, monsieur.
I believe your lord brought up a good point, that for us to launch a proper assault on Jerusalem, there'd be short-term gains, but long-term we would not be able to hold the area without the proper strength.
That is precisely the point. It is not merely a war which must be fought in the name of piety, but also strategy. After all, did not the Lionheart take Ashkelon because it acted as a point of resupply and troop movement for those of the Muslim forces in Egypt? By cutting it off, he deprived them of much of their resource.
Walking along, I would silently think this over. Out of character, if I remember right, the reason the last crusade failed was because everyone sort of pulled out and left the Lionheart to do most of the heavy lifting.
It was more like there was too many...
Chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah. Lionheart wanted to press the siege for Jerusalem, but twice they were forced to pull back from it. He also wanted to launch an invasion into Egypt, believing correctly that that is where many of their resources, as well as many of their reinforcements, lay. He saw it as a weak link in the Muslim defense, much as the Ventrue have pointed out.
We must learn from the past and not make the same mistakes as the Second and Third Crusades. I believe if we were to capture and hold Egypt, we would cripple the Muslim reinforcements and supplies in the area, even though I understand the stark desire to capture the Holy Lands.
Precisement. However, monsieur, if you can recall, in the Second Crusade, as we have discussed, the papal bull has been passed in order to encompass the fight against the Moors. And why did men go to fight there instead of the Holy Land, as had been the intention of the Pope? Not that men did not go, but many were diverted to Iberia for the promise of wealth offered by the Portuguese king Alphonse. Lisbon was a great victory, but what if those same men had been there to fight in Palestine? Other Crusader forces have launched mock invasions into Egypt to disrupt lines, but rarely have they met success, for they acted in small number. In a larger, concentrated and single-minded force, this could perhaps be a fruitful strategy. And for those craving wealth, Alexandria and Dalmatia offer plenty. Ultimately, it is unfortunate to appeal to greed, but my lord, as proud as he is, does not wish to admit it, but he is single-mindedly devoted to this image of a united Latin empire with the church as its common source of strength. And for those of us more preoccupied with Canaanites, it also acts as a severe way to strike against the Azamite and Setites.
Running his hand through his beard, Aimery would continue to walk with him, thinking, I understand your lord's unified dream. It is one that I can respect and even hope that he achieves.
Do you? You do not seem to me as a man who is so devoted to faith. The way you speak of war and you speak of strategy, I would have taken you for a soldier. Do not tell me I have been misled into speaking with a priest.
I was once a man of great skill and renown, but I have given those weights up. I have given myself wholly to God. Though I am not blind to the needs of strategy, God is powerful and he makes his will known in the world. We must help ourselves to make ourselves the embodiment of what Christ would have us be. God helps those who help themselves, as it were.
Of that I can imagine, monsieur. Your traveling companions, are they such as yourself?
Save everyone but Volta has experienced the horrors of the last crusade. Some are interested in gold and riches, while others are interested in revenge, simply playing a part in God's path.
Do they not then see the folly of their sin? The sin of wrath?
Thinking back to Sir Arnulfus, he thinks they have been scarred by their wrath, but they do not see the falter of their ways just yet. I hope in time God will open their eyes, as I can only point them in the right direction.
He puts out his hand in front of you to make you stop, as he turns to look you in the face. But how much time must they be given? They stand now with their wrath guiding their actions. What if in this critical moment which God has put before them, they allow such things to prey on them? And by doing this, they nurture that wrath until it becomes something greater. We are in a city of heresy. A single indulgence of sin can give way to a tidal wave.
Jesus Christ himself said to forgive your neighbor 77 times. I understand concern that they will choose the wrong path or ignite a tidal wave of wrath that will set this crusade off.
He puts his hand up. I do not preoccupy myself with those who are not myself or my lord. This is selfish of me, I am aware, but we must all carry our sin. Rather, I worry for you, who so surrounded by wrath may be persuaded by it.
Looking in the direction of his voice, I would speak. I am not so foolish as to believe myself incapable of being persuaded off the path, but I believe I am following a prophecy which has been foretold.
Such a surety.
Do you remember the Cappadocian, Reinald?
I believe I saw him observing.
I believe him a part of a greater prophecy that is to ensure that we retake the Holy Lands.
But then
Yes.
why would he be a Canaanite? It could be perceived that he has been given this power in order to do that which you say. Then again, it might be that he has been given this power so that he may live to the age in which it must be done.
I nod and say, I was a gluttonous man, a man of greed, and God has taken away my sight and my ability to enjoy food. I was a man of sin and gluttony, but God took away my eyes and my ability to enjoy food, set me on the right path.
Deprived of desire, you are left with only necessity. A very chaste way of life. I can commend you this. I find myself all too often drawn to indulgence, but I try to be rational. But if I might ask, surely a man who survived Edessa, what would be your thoughts on that of Khadijah, the Muslim magister?
I can commend her for seeing the light of God and turning to Christ, but I fear it is merely lip service. Pilgrimages to the Holy Land are still accosted by bandits and other violent Muslims.
You are not incorrect. You are not the only one with your suspicions. Rumors have persisted regarding the Magister Khadijah. In fact, many suspicions lie that she may in some fashion be behind the delays and logistical problems plaguing the crusade since its start. For months we have been stalled here, in a similar way that Saladin attempted to stall the Lionheart as he mounted his forces.
I question why she was invited in.
It is a question that perhaps only the La Sombra could answer. It is just as my lord feared. He had hoped to avoid such matters of religious authority would not interfere with the goal of beating back common enemies, yet here we are debating against one another. It is why I display to you this fear of your Coterie's wrath, lest they infect you with this divisive nature.
They will not, but I pause for a moment and I say, for a moment I pause and say, for the last several nights I have been plagued by nightmares, ones of ashen-laid streets of charred bodies, of churches desecrated. I am afraid this is what will happen if we enter the Holy Lands.
Something so horrible, such hatred which may drive men in order to commit such deeds, to burn, to murder, to desecrate the Holy Church. There is wisdom in what you say. There are times where crusades get the better of men. One need not look further than those crusaders which followed our King Louis when he went south with Eleanor. Did not the Byzantine work against him with the Seljuk Turks? Did they not deprive him of the supplies that he were promised? The time of crusades is always uncertain, and French nobility were turned against the Byzantine at that point.
I pause for a moment thinking, and then I would say, wherever we end up, I will take it as the will of God. Would you... I pause for a moment. You said she would not talk to a Ventrue.
Precisamente. But this is true for many La Sombra. There are some which are quite conversational. However, when speaking to the crown they perceive to be their rival, as is the way with many of the child of Cain, they are not so receptive to conversation or questions which may pry into their clan's internal politics. It would seem strange to me that the La Sombra do not support the crusade for Egypt. After all, the division in Spain, would not that benefit their cause? Would not that benefit them in defending the southern coasts of Sicily? I do not understand the reason for this, especially as Khadijah and Tommaso do not seem to support one another. Nor are they quite opposed. But I have yet to hear another Ventrue, another Malkavian, speak to one another in such a way as to call them deceitful, as Tommaso has done to Khadijah and the Arab people. It plagues me with ill intent, or rather the perseverance of ill intent rising. This crusade needs strategy. Common enemies gather both for Christendom and the courts of Canaanites which exist here in Europe. The Azamites have already shown that they will not stay idly by, and more of them begin to come into Christian land, and so is the corruptive influence of the Setite. I will ask, do not make you think that I am here to turn you against your allies. What do you believe is the best course of action?
I believe we must follow in the Lionheart's attempt. A less divided group, a more unified faction, could easily take Egypt. That would be a perfect launching point to push further into the Muslim territories. It would also provide funds, further weaken the, as you said, Muslim activities in the area.
In a way similar to the capture of Cyprus by the Lionheart. He inclines his head. Beyond that of it is my lord's position, I too agree. Which is precisely why I follow my lord. I will not ask you to speak against your allies. I would ask that you speak with them for what you believe, and for what you believe is God's plan. Especially if this Cappadocian you say has a prophecy to him, then you must ensure that it is not corrupted.
I nod my head and say, I will speak to him of the strategy of capturing Egypt, that perhaps being a soldier as he was before being embraced, he is more flexible to changing strategies when a opportunity lies in front of him.
As I would understand, Jesus Christ was forced to endure tribulation, and each trial brought him closer to being at God's side. He did not merely go straight to his destination, but he was forced to endure. I believe in this we must endure for that which is greater salvation, greater redemption for our sin. To walk in a similar fashion to Jesus.
I understand. Jesus would not have created such a movement around him had he gone directly toward his intended role. It is only through the hardships and the lessons learned through travels that he understood what had to be done.
Monsieur, we find ourselves in agreement. As I say, I do not wish to inspire division among your coterie, but I would ask that you speak to them. Or if nothing else, present what you have foreseen as an ill omen before the council, so that they may act with the foremost of information as to what they fight for.
I nod and then say, be careful of the prince of this region. As you said, corruption spreads throughout the ranks of the crusade.
Of that you are not mistaken, monsieur. I find that your way of speak is most respectable. If I may ask, do you yourself hail from a more educated class?
Apologies, I did not properly introduce myself. Pulling my hands free of my robes, I would offer my hand, saying, my full name is Aimery de Champagne.
Clasping your hand, he presses the other over and shakes it twice. I am Aimery de Versailles, naturally of the clan Ventrue. As you already know.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Dusai.
It is a pleasure for me to meet a countryman. Especially one that I find so agreeable.
I wish you well in your debate.
As I do you. And please do not hesitate to come to our door. If for no other reason than myself and Ronald, we could use another who has shared not only our lovely country, but also has experienced the tragedies of the Crusades past. For both he and I have fought, having taken up the cross.
It would be refreshing to meet with another countryman. Until then, I would wish you well.
Oui, monsieur. I hope you the best in your future, and to see us through this divisive deliberation. Good evening. And with that, intermission. As Voltaire takes this time to walk the streets of Venice, the constant sound of rippling water, and the occasional sounds of people, women laughing from half-open doorways, men who shout at the top of their lungs, and that singularly unique Italian accent possessed by everyone. A rich sound, unique to your ears, having heard very little of it in France. It was occasional. Makes you think back to the fairs before everything got so complicated. Nevertheless, you proceed through the streets of Venice. A faint, salty smell clinging to the air, with a light aroma of fish, as well as sweet fruits and flowers. Above many of the veranda, you can see small flowers held on displays or growing in vines that remind you of the vineyards back home. What goes through Voltaire's mind?
He is simply taking in the beauty and the scents, the aromas, the feelings that Venice gives as he walks through the streets, head held up high, a gentle smile on his face, as some of these scents and sounds seem to remind him of what home was like. He is simply charmed by this city's beauty, its city's life.
And so you round the following corner, passing by several of the marketplaces, admiring those beautiful men and attractive women. The verses of old poetry and comedias of Italy going through your mind. Some time away from the deliberations. Perception and alertness. You stride on, mesmerized, taken by the passions of your nature as you carry on. Striding with an emboldened confidence as though you strut upon the stage, feeling the candlelight illuminating you under the various makeups and adornments. You quote some of the lines of Richard the Lionheart under your breath as you press your hand on your sword before you look up, staring outward into the streets of Venice. And it is then before you that you see a crusader, dressed in bloody rags, his eyes darting madly about until they focus on you. It takes you an instant, as you were so enraptured in your passions, that you could hardly feel, but now it is emanating from him the power of true faith. And without saying a word, the crusader sees you, but does nothing except whisper, "Forgive me." It is then from behind him you can see the rising bounce of shadows and torches. A furious sound of voices, a cacophony of drowning sound of anger. Overwhelming the smell of blood is now the stench of burning pitch as a mob begins to close behind the man. "Kill him! Kill him! The mad one!" They point to the crusader. The enraged mass is to attack him.
Walter watches as the man looks to him, and he finally gets that feeling of true faith. It surprises him for a moment, while also seeing he's covered in blood, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes him take a small step back, but only 1 foot back. And then he notices the mob behind him starting to make their presence known as they shout towards him. Voltaire then looks to the man and draws his sword.
You intend to defend this crusader.
Yes.
Drawing your sword as you stalk forward, the mob makes no attempts to stop. You can hear the mass of hurried feet as improvised weapons are raised. Knives, cleavers, clubs, axes. Many of them bear torches as they rush the crusaders back. Staring at you, he makes no move to defend himself.
Voltaire guards the crusader, almost stomping his foot as he yells with power and with presence. Halt! He holds himself high as he looks towards the oncoming mob, almost unflinching.
Moving to the aid of the crusader, you cut them off from their path, standing firmly and splaying out your sword. You command them to freeze, and the magnetic ripple of your force of personality pervades over the mortal minds of the men. They are struck by you, standing with the figure of a king and the finery of a noble, with the bearing of a god. They stare upon you in a fashion which you are familiar from your time on the stage. Their eyes enraptured, their ears prone, straining to hear your words.
You will tell me, why do you raise your weapons to a crusader of God?
Go ahead and roll really quickly your courage. Because being so close to this crusader, the aura of faith nearly burns you to step away. The emanations of the aura of faith of the man who now stares at you, his eyes widened with a mix of emotions you cannot readily identify by the flicker of the firelight. And yet, despite the burn of Christendom which emanate from him, and the blood which drench him, you refuse to look or back away as you turn back to the mob as they point, crying out, "He has killed men this evening! Murdered!"
Voltaire remembers the blood on the crusader. Remembers how panicked he looked, but continues to face the mob with courage, continue to stare them down. This man here is a man of God. He is brought here by his strength in faith and is want to do right by him. And yet,
Mio signore, è un assassino. Commette il peccato di assassini. My lord, this man is a murderer. He commits the sin of murder.
that does not give you the right to punish him. Only by those in power and by church, and only by God, may they judge him for his actions.
Charisma and expression. The men shift, yet drawn by your words, they listen. You can see as their eyes swift over each other and brought back to you by your preternatural call. You sway the crowd as some lower their weapons. Others cross themselves and more still look on, dubious. Gesturing out towards you, one of the men cries, "There is legitimacy in what he says. We are not judges sanctioned by God to do this. Should we erase a sinner by committing sin upon our own soul?" Dropping torches and more weapons, the men hang their heads in shame. Meanwhile, roll courage. You do take a couple of steps back, but no more. The aura of faith which emanates from the man is vaguely mirrored in that of the crowd, of the religious mania which has consumed Venice. Church bells ring in the distance for that of dead bodies, no doubt rendered so by this man's slaying hand. The crusader, dropping to his knees before you, rests the tip of his sword at the ground as he bows his head. Uttering prayer, you feel an inclination to flee. And yet, you hold yourself at the honor this genuine man of virtuousness of God displays to you. You must disperse this crowd and get away from here. The beast becomes incensed by it.
You will see to it that this holy man is taken into the proper authorities to be judged by them. He will not be harmed in your care. Do I make myself clear?
As the crowd begins to rise their heads, staring at you with a burning certainty, the knight raises his head to look up at you. "I promise on my faith that I will in the future be faithful to the Lord, never to cause him harm, and will observe my homage to him completely against all persons. I will develop my life for the greater good. And I swear this oath in fealty to you." He rests his head against the crossguard of his sword. The crowd seems uncertain. And from the look in this man's eyes, he does not merely see you as a man. He seems aware of you being a monster.
Voltaire turns a little to face the crusader on his knees as he looks down at him. Stand.
Standing, he rests his sword still in the ground. He looks at you with such a burning insincerity in his eyes. No, not insincerity. What burns there is uncertainty, a mixture of confusion, fear, and zealotry that knows only mania, but sees something inspired in you. as you have seen many a times in the faces of those young men and children that looked upon you performing on the stage, just as you had done before to your mentor who inspired you.
You need not promise anything to me. All you need to promise is to do right by your actions and by God. You will pay for your consequences and you will make up for them.
Standing, the leader of the mob speaks out to the Crusader. Servarà il Signore per I tuoi peccati, finché non il ritirari ripagati. You will serve the Lord for your sins until he deem them repaid. The Crusader still stands before you, blood streaking down his face as tears wet his cheeks, and dripping from his rags as his sword dangles by his side. What goes through the mind of Voltaire? How does he react to this man of pious mania, swearing such an oath to him, in spite of Voltaire having joined this all for glory?
It surprised him a little. It was it was a mixed feelings of emotions. Truly unsure of how to really feel about it himself, but weirdly, it felt kind of good, almost. To protect this man from, no doubt, a fate condemned to death, and in return to have them swear to him. It was all strange, dealing with a lot of emotions at the time from two sides of real faith. He'll have to think on it more. For now, he has to finish this whole ordeal. Go with them, Crusader. Atone for your actions.
The mob seems confused. They stare with shifting feet, yet such a certainty inspired in their eyes. Such a dazzling wonderment in which they stare upon you. As every action and every word which comes from you seems to emanate a phantom authority. The Crusader, however, stares. Forgive me. And as he turns to face the mob, what thoughts go through your eyes as he begins to walk away towards them? The still halo of faith emanating from him, causing the discomfort of your beast.
In his eyes is a look of certainty, of authority.
Roll your aspects as he walks in the direction of the crowd. You get this haunted image of a man who walks through a field of corpses. Fires burn around him in nights to come. and blood remains fresh upon his blade. Until that halo of faith is extinguished into unceasing darkness.
As he sees this, he still remains steady. Slowly sheathing his blade as the Crusader moves closer and closer to the once violent crowd, watching all of them closely.
The crowd stare back at you, bowing in acquiescence to your demands and authority. Some of the men putting hands on the Crusader, gripping him by the arms, and others taking from him the sword, as meekly he obeys and is carried away by them.
Walter, in return, gives a kind, gentle nod to them. Putting away his sword fully and standing tall once more as they take him away.
Perception, alertness. You catch a faint shadow as you turn back the way you came. A figure which lurked on the edge of sight, returning to the darkness. You are not alone in observing this affair. End of scene. To set the scene, as Tancred pulls away from the throat of the man of whom he was feeding on, finding some lowly cut purse, which was on his own, counting his spoils with a still dirtied blade. It was not easy finding a man on whom to feed. The city is rife with religious mania, making it a most uncomfortable place for you to traverse in the recent nights. Nevertheless, you shove him aside. The faint flicker of firelight from the street beyond beginning to creep its shadows along the wall, several of which strain around you, with a faint ripple of water to the far edge of the alley, and the ever so slight sound of fluttering wings as birds disturbed from their roosts on the rooftops carry overhead, bells ringing in the distance at an inopportune time, suggesting some tragedy has befallen. What does Tancred do in his time?
Well, seeing as I haven't been pulled aside, I believe it will be going to visit my Nosferatu buddies. They did invite me to the island of Saint Michel, so, you know. He's looking at the space around him with a sense of foreboding and also determination, as well as a bit of tiredness. He's getting sick of the deliberations already. He sees a lot of the other arguments as, well, ill-fitting for the job. And having to constantly talk about the same points over and over again, just in a slightly different way, is not something that he enjoys very much. At the same time, he also wants to get out of the city. He doesn't like being in a place where the Cainite heresy lingers so strongly.
The shifting sounds of men's armor draws closer. Perception and alertness. You recognize at once the crest which emblazons their banner and is on the front of their armor. Not just crusaders, but crusaders from Sicily, from the city of Corleone. 3 of them walking.
They have a sense of radiance about them, as though they're proper crusaders.
There is no overwhelming aura of faith, but they walk with all the due diligence of men determined and well instructed in war. One of them, who has his face more showing, pauses to pull out his water skin. The other 2 stop, looking back at him. One shrugs his shoulders as he takes a draw of his water skin.
Do I recognize these people at all? And would they recognize me? Because as far as I'm aware, I should be dead to these guys.
You don't recognize the faces. Two of them are mere boys. The other one seems older. There's a chance he could recognize you, but it's hard to tell on account of the helmet. If nothing else, you have been away from Corleone for a long time.
Perhaps he can get some insight on the city that he ruled over. And as far as they're concerned, he's yet another knight on the field. He will not remove his helmet. In fact, he will refuse to, saying... Well, he won't say anything yet. But he doubts that they will recognize his voice. He'll drop it slightly lower, just to potentially avoid risking the silence, and approach.
Seeing you emerge from the alley, the light of the torch held shifts, for a moment blazing within the eye sockets of your helm, before it is moved to the side, the faint smell of its burning pitch reaching your nostrils. The other men's armors shift. At parts, you can see that the hems are wet or their footprints are leaving spots of water. You had to guess they were recently on a boat in the canal. Buonasera, signore. One inclines his head as the other one wipes the back of his mouth quickly, looking away, using the back of his hand to wipe the water from his lips before he nods to you. Buonasera.
Buonasera, signore. He'll speak with a general Italian accent, sort of muffling his Sicilian, though it is a little hard to do so. Remnants for the trained ear.
The youngest one, who holds the torch, leans forward, looking you over, inspecting you with a very intensive eye that makes you suspicious before you hear him say with an appreciative rising of his voice, La tua armatura è impressionante. Your armor is most impressive.
Grazie, he'll say with a humble, slight bow of his head and genuine respect in his voice. I see you are from Corleone?
Si, signore. Where is it you are from? The young boy interjects as the older man tries to speak, cutting him off before you are able to answer, saying, Trofeo della guerra bizantina. He gestures to your hip excitedly as he points to the mace, asking, is that a trophy of the Byzantine War?
Tancred gives a nod. That is correct. I won this in a battle not too long ago.
The older crusader speaks out, smacking the boy on the back of his helm. Ragazzo, stale zitto lansissel quel culmo. Parli insene, scetulo importuni. Boy, be silent. Let the man speak without your pestering. He seems to lower his head bashfully, though it's hard to tell by his helm as he takes a step back. Grazie, signore. I apologize for the young boy. He is yet wet behind the ears.
I too was once like that, as I assume many of us were. No offense has been given. Yes, I won this in a fight with a Byzantine adversary not too long ago.
God has given you much fortuna to have guided you through such a war. I too fought in it as a young man.
A young man you may still yet be of heart, no doubt, as you are here traveling on crusade.
He seems to take a moment, his eyes looking askew and downward before he nods, a single bow of his head.
I too am much the same way. I seek to aid God and bring forth what he wishes. Tell me, is this your first crusade?
Si, signore. As it is for the young man. The one who is drinking holds out his water skin. Water, signore. Would you care to drink? The water of the wells here is cool.
No, thank you. I drank not too long ago for my own. Your offering is appreciated, however.
The older man reaches out, resting his hand on the younger man's and lowering the water skin. You should be preparing to endure the heat of the desert. You will not be able to find such abundant water there. Begin to ration yourself. War is not a forgiving place.
It is not. I have seen those deserts myself. The land is harsh. The people harsher. Suspicion over every eye.
The young men seem to exchange nervous stances. God will guide our blades and see us through this crusade. If only we are able to get underway. The older man inclines his head, but as he begins to lift it, you hear another voice enter, speaking. Quanto siamo fortunati a trovarti in una compagnia così formidabile. How blessed we are to find ourselves in such formidable company. It is a voice you recognize as you see another crusader in armor, whose face bears that of your undead brother. Buonasera, signore.
Buonasera. Tancred looks to him.
Quanto tempo è passato? He holds out his hands to you, as though as to embrace you as he asks, how long has it been?
Quite long indeed. My new crusader friends, if you would excuse me.
Capitano, you know this man. I do. Leave us. We must exchange words and stories. He taught me much in my young years. Si, Capitano. The men bow and move away as your brother stares at you. Tancred, you never change.
And neither do you, brother. Tell me, Thomas, how is it treating you? The South again?
I do not come from the south.
Is it you hail from them?
I have been in Pisa and Firenze. I learned many things from you. You and your avidità, your greed.
Bold coming from the man who ruled our city with an iron fist.
Mi ha sempre invidiato il mio diritto di nascita. You have always envied me, my birthright. He waves his hand dismissively.
Clearly everything changes and nothing perishes.
And so much remains the same, brother. For now I, once again, hail among those who are kings, and you, among a band of pretenders who hide in shadow.
We all hide in shadow together, brother. For is it not our curse? No?
Parle per te. Speak for yourself. You come as I to this crusade for your own greed. I come for what I feel is my due.
Your due or your own greed?
You who always loved the stories of heroes still do not understand the world of men. Did the philosophy burn at your brain, brother? Was it a time that we were not allies to one another, that now you would seek to turn on me as always?
Turn on you? No. I believe it is you who turned on me. I will never forget what you did to Theory.
To theory.
If you would be loved, be lovable, brother. Earn what is your due. For is that not why you are here?
Ha conspirato contra. He conspired against me. What was I to do? Tell me. Was I to nurture a snake to my bosom? I showed you in those young years what that amounts to, brother. I pointed out those things to you you had no patience for. And still, with no taste for it, you came to me with envy. You came to me a puppet. And look now, they have used you, and you no longer even have that which you stole from me as your own. He throws up his hand in disgust.
Last I checked, you were the one who approached me. Oh, brother. Nothing is stronger than habit. And you moved to me yet again. Tell me, is there a dagger on my back that I should yet expect? Just as there was with Theory, who was innocent. To your... What is the word? Impaciencia?
Vedi un pugnale. He gestures behind you, asking, do you see a dagger? No. There is no dagger, save for that of my tongue, as it has been so long since we have spoken. I welcomed you warmly, and immediately your expression turned sour. Even behind that mask, I can hear the way you speak. Do you truly fight in the name of God, or do you merely come to this for your own sins?
I fight for God. I have been fighting for God for a long time now. I've made friends who fight for God as well. And they are friends. As for you, we both know that you are too paranoid for friends. Allies, perhaps, but friends, no. I believe it is you who should be asking yourself that question if you have not already asked it to death.
Brother, you should understand God better than any man here. He gestures. For all we have been through, we may as well be as a fable of Cain and Abel. Evil is merely a perspective, brother. God kills indiscriminately, and so do we. For no creatures under God are as we are, none so like him as ourselves.
So that's a sus-ass line. Have I heard any Cainite conspirators speaking in such a way as, well, what he just said?
It's definitely reminiscent of the heresy.
It seems you are dragged along by this strange force, desire and reason pulling you in different directions. You think you see the right way and you approve it, but you follow the wrong way yet again.
And what of you? Are you but here to be eyes to some other power? I serve myself, brother. I seek to restore what was rightfully ours, or at least that of our family. That which you destroyed with your greed.
Was it not you who saw to it that our brother disappeared?
He puts up
Was it
his
not
hand.
me who came along? He ignores the hand and righted your wrong. Or am I forgetting? Happy are those who dare courageously to defend what they love. And it is clear to me you and I are happy from different things.
He rests his hands on his hips, shaking his head briefly. You are ever the same. Las che ci si sassia passe tra noi. Let there be peace between us.
We are ever striving after what is forbidden and coveting what is denied us.
From where do you come here? I have not heard of you in the Knights of Firenze or Pisa. Not in Genoa or here in Venice.
I have journeyed recently in France. And before that, Outremer.
And do you believe you have learned anything from this on life?
I have learned much. It is clear to me that you have learned quite a bit yourself. For is it not time that feeds us our wisdom?
I have learned that among canine who seek to match Eidolon, there is always some conspiracy. And unlike with mortal men, those conspiracies bear much greater pondering upon to understand. He puts his hands behind his back, clasping at his wrist. In the noblest fashion that you recognize him for, so as he looks slightly down at you, leaning back his head. Have you spoken with the Principe? With Narcisse?
Of course. For it would be unwise to enter a prince's city and not introduce yourself.
See, the traditions. And your thoughts of the Principe? I would gather that you do not favor him for the way that you judge me so harsh.
My thoughts are that of my own.
He nods.
I'm here to be with the Crusaders. I'm here to plan for the future of all Christians, as are many others in Eastern Town. I have not yet seen you at the talks of the Crusade.
Nor will you.
I assumed as much. It does not seem to suit your new proclivities.
I would not draw the eye or ire of Narcisse.
Wise indeed, brother.
Ah, something on which we agree upon. If only you knew more of what transpired. Mayhap we could be of allies to each other once again, like when we were boys. But I fear you would spend too much time suspecting me of being the one with the dagger.
Love will enter cloaked in friendship's name. This is the way of canines.
Tell me, have you given any thought to that of the Byzantine in all of this affair?
Not arriving at the docks, yet still hearing about them, no doubt.
We hear about the Byzantine and their coming, and they have been a thorn in the Crusader side on the last 2 crusades. And they have always been scoundrels to the lands of the Latin kingdoms. And they have always been a scourge to us. He gestures between you two. Why should I not be suspicious and hateful of them?
Suspicious, I can agree with you on that. And hateful, I can understand. However, it is not in our way to hate. Hate those who serve God.
They do not serve God. They serve their emperor. They serve their false icon, the patriarch. A mad god who guides his city.
It's again another thing we can agree on. Such a suspicious figure. A disappointing figure as well. But from what I know, he does serve God. Truly. And he is a prince, so he will be offered what is due. As I have no doubt that the Crusades, regardless of where they go, will take us through the lens of the Byzantine.
He looks off to the side, down one of the other streets. He nods to himself before glancing back at you. More approaching parishioners bringing with them a faint aura of faith, causing in both of you a discomfort visible to either of your eyes. He shakes his head as he takes a step back away. Vai con Dio. Fai attenzione a non incontrar loro troppo presto. Brother, go with God. See to it you do not meet him too soon. Brother.
Be well, brother, and remember, whether on the field or in torpor, we all shall be ashes, blown by the wind when our final moon rises. Good evening.
End scene. With the sound of your armor shifting, the chainmail giving its only faint rattlings as you move, you travel the dark corners of Venice, the city so highly praised by many mortals, and so highly coveted by the likes of those who have always loved money, as you know them to be. What light there is from candles or torches glimmers on the dark waters which interlock the city as an island, or split the various islands apart. The nearest taberna, as you remember, isn't far away, and relatively close to the Grand Canal and the San Marco. To your left and to your right, crowds move and mingle through the narrow streets of Venice, and flowers can be smelt, sweetening the air, or at times they grow like vines down the lengths of verandas. And a disquieting sense of true faith seems to permeate almost everywhere you go. How does Arnulfus think and carry himself in such a place?
Arnulfus carries himself erect, proud in his bearing. He walks the streets, his head high, showing the courage of a crusader as he is eternally dressed. He looks across the streets, perhaps down alleys that he passes on the thoroughfare. Those who went on their way to a night of vice. All those making merry. Though, given how these deliberations drag on and on, a quieter feed would likely be in order. So, as a crusading soldier would, his bearing stiff, stoic, though not as showboaty or pompous as whatever knights may trounce through these streets would, he tried to find a suitable vessel.
Perception survival. For as uncomfortable as much of Venice has become with the constant presence of piety and faith, the tavernas always attract some manner of scoundrel people, especially near to the docks. That typically stands true for most places. You find a large lad, young, crisp black hair falling down to his shoulders, dirty chest, bruised knuckles. You immediately get the impression he's the kind of young man that likes to resolve things with violence, and to a degree that feels just about right to you. As he moves through one of the back streets and into a narrow alley where you can hear him bend over, resting an arm on a barrel. You're guessing he had too much to drink.
Arnulfus would follow him into the alley, check that he was sufficiently covered by shadow. Is the man still preoccupied with his own retching?
Even as you glance back over your shoulder and ahead of the alley, you can hear him still as his voice seems to be captured and augmented by the narrow space of the walls. Go ahead and roll a perception alertness. As you search up past the way you came and down from whence you walked, you do spy in one of the narrow passageways a black figure which watches you without capturing any of the light. A shadow which stands a silent sentinel watching.
Does it move?
It doesn't seem to move. As you shift your helm to see it, both due to the obstruction from the helmet as well as that of the darkness in which it stands, as light only occasionally goes past, it doesn't seem to be interested in departing. And meanwhile, the man behind you gives another Dio.
Arnulfus turns his back on the figure. There are too many Cainites in the city to concern myself with all of them. And turns to the man. And in French asks, "Do you speak French?"
The big boy's face, as you get a good look at him, he's quite young. He looks over you. Chakosa. It doesn't seem as though he understood you.
Trovino. Do.
Cosa vuoi? Cosa vuoi da me? pushing himself up from the barrel, he turns to face you, his barrel chest pushed out, his shoulders squared. You can see his first impression seems to be that clearly you want to fight about whatever it is you said.
Are there any bottles on the ground near us?
A few.
I'll pick one up in one hand by the neck. Well, kind of pinching it at the neck. Take a coin out of a purse with the other hand. Swing the bottle a bit and show the coin. Drink. Huh? You? Me?
Sei un asino di asino. He points accusatorily at you, his big finger poking at your shoulder as he staggers forward.
I took what? And Arnulfus just flicks the coin at him.
Huh?
Van!
Clasping the coin against his chest, he looks down at it and looks at you. His face is red, still angry from whatever perceived insult you levied at him.
I make a drinking motion with the bottle and hand it over to him.
Cruciato. He seems to pause. Bere? He makes the drinking motion.
We. They nod.
Ah, Francesi. Francesi Bere. He points in the direction from whence he stumbled up to the alley at the taberna, where if you lean back, you can see that it is so overcrowded with people that groups of men and women are gathered outside drinking.
Arnulfus turns his head to look, turns back to the boy, and waves a hand dismissively.
First of all, self-control. Your impatience is starting to get the better of you with this guy.
Yeah, that bloody figure distracted me. I could have just fed on him when he was still puking.
Your fist clenches in your armor, and your fangs are gracefully hidden, along with the rest of your horrid visage, behind your helmet. Nevertheless, you can feel the impulse to bang his head against a wall a few times. But what stops you still from doing such is as you examine this young, large boy, is that he reminds you a bit of yourself when you were his age. Big, strong, and prone to using violence. The idea of feeding from yourself is a level of self-punishment that doesn't inspire you.
He points a finger at himself, points that finger at the boy, and makes a drinking motion with his hand.
Mi scusi, signore. The voice comes from you from behind.
Quoi? He turns sharply.
She pauses for a moment before appearing to reiterate her word. Excuse me, monsieur. Excuse me, sir. The young boy who looks confusedly between the two of you, she looks up to. And smiling. Speaking to him in his native tongue. He seems to nod. He takes a step to turn around, and then turns around and swings for you only to collapse at your feet. She continues in French. If you wish to feed from him, monsieur, I do not think he will offer you much resistance. However, if you are able, I would like to speak with you. I had hoped that I could wait until you had finished your hunting, but it would seem that you would go and join the company of the mortals.
You distracted me. I had to improvise. What do you want?
To speak. In exchange, I will treat you to blood in my home. If you favor men who drink wine, that too can be arranged.
Arnulfus stands looking at her through his helm, turns his head to look down at the boy, now a carpet, clenches his hand, his fist, looks back to her, and nods. Then talk.
Bene. Please follow me, monsieur. My home is not far. I am Magdalena d'Esti. Come. She motions for you.
Arnulfus follows.
Joining her in her home, though you could already gather from the finery she wears, it is now irrefutable that you are in the presence of at least some Venetian noblewomen, if they have such a thing. You're not sure. You hear it's all merchants and families. And yet her home is lavishly decorated with fineries from France, the lands of the Germans, and even a few things you recognize from the Saracens' lands. In the plush corner where she greets you, you are given a seat, and an attractive young woman comes in to sit down beside you. Her clothes thinner than parchment paper, so you can almost see the rose-budded nipples. Magdalena, for her part, reclines into her seat, and from her waistline pulls out a silver knife, which she holds out to you, should you wish to use it. Please, have your refreshment before we have our conversation. I find that we are kind of more irritable when tempted by other forces.
Is she drunk?
She is. Honeyed wine from Sicily.
Arnulfus would remove his helmet, undo his ventail, and bite the girl's wrist.
To your surprise, when you remove her helm, she seems excited. And as you lift her wrist and bite her, she moans as she reclines, resting her head on your shoulder as you draw from the sweet blood, sweet like honey, yet with a strange mingling taste, which you recognize as the heady wine, afflicting her blood, thinning it, making it hot and rush down your throat quickly. The other Canaanite, Magdalena, watches mutely as another man comes in, well-dressed this time. He kneels beside her, pulling back his sleeve and making a show of cutting open his wrist for her to bleed into a cup, which she graciously accepts as he holds it up, his bloodied hands staining the edges. She then waves at him to heal himself. How much do you take from the girl?
Well, I don't like that she's leaning on me, so I'm not going to take too much that she falls asleep in my arms. I'll take from her 2 mouthfuls. This is good wine.
Self-control. The heady concoction which rushes down your gullet forces you to pull back, almost tearing yourself away from her. She gives another moan as you pull away, and almost immediately reaches out with her free hand, trying to bring your fangs back to her, but you push her away.
A slight scowl on my face as I look at her, push her away sufficiently, and then turn my attention back to Madame d'Este.
For now, reduce your intelligence and dexterity by 2.
I've had 0
This girl was
intelligence.
well and proper drunk.
I've had 0 intelligence.
Magdalena takes time to sip from her drink before at last she holds up her cup at you. Are you satisfied?
Arnulfus, the scowl still present on his face from having to deal with that one, nods gravely.
Bene. How do you find the splendorous jewel that is Venice?
Hard to see in the catacombs.
Perhaps you have a point. You are a curious one. I would assume you are a member of the Order of Bitter Ashes, Nosferatu so knightly.
I'm not a knight. I just fight where I'm wanted.
A mercenary.
I leave the holiness for those worthy.
So you believe you are not worthy?
I try. What do you want?
I would like to be polite to you. I bear no ill will to you. But if you speak of believing yourself unholy, that concerns me. For I believe all are capable of finding salvation.
That's why I crusade.
You are not one who likes to mince your words. Very well then. I will speak plainly if that put you at ease.
He nods again.
May I ask you, Mercenario? You fight for redemption in the eyes of God, but do you not also fight for other things such as coin or principle, power? I am curious before I expand on my words.
Fighting for coin made me this. Of course I fight for power. I'm a mercenary above all. But that's only so far as I survive in these nights.
You fight for power and you fight for redemption. As written in De Anima, blood of martyrs is the seed of the church. Raising from her chair, she steps to come and sit beside you. As she eases herself down, she sets forward her cup on the floor before her as she looks to you. You do not care for Narcisse, I would gather, nor are you too tied to the lands of Byzantine.
I don't care for many people nor places.
That is good. You wish me to be plain. I will be plain with you. I can offer you power, I can offer you redemption, but in exchange, signore, monsieur, I would ask you to advocate something on my behalf.
You think they'll listen to me?
I believe your voice may carry some weight to a popular sentiment, and in return, if you see to this task, you may be able to find power among my circles, who will offer you the redemption you seek.
I already have a priest.
I do not want to be your priest. I am not so holy as that. I am a creature that understands men, and furthermore, I understand power and money. One thing that cannot be easily denied is money does bring power, and power is everything in this world. Those who have it use it. Those who lack power are powerless and used. You wish for power because you understand this, the power to seize your redemption, offered to you by the powerful.
Arnulfus clenches a fist and points at her pointedly. I don't get gifted power. I take what is mine, so that I may prove myself worthy to God.
And you will be given the opportunity to take it. Listen to me before you make accusations. I offer you the opportunity to bring down the false Rome, to bring down the false would-be son, Michael. She throws up her hand.
Is that it?
Yes. I want you to advocate for this course of action. The Byzantines have always betrayed the kingdoms of the Latin Christendom. One need only look to the Crusades past, where they have betrayed you to the Seljuk Turks. She puts up her other hand. And Michael is a mad god who guides his people madly into destruction and heresy.
You want me to kill Narcissus too?
No. Narcissus is not well trusted, even among circles in which he would believe he is. What I would say is, in coming night, there is a power struggle which you will fall into the hands of. You see, the rightful heir to Byzantine seeks the support of Latin crusaders to reclaim his throne. When that time comes, I would have you advocate for him as a man of honor, and help guide the crusade to the destruction of the Queen of Cities. Claim your power and your redemption in the eyes of God then. And me and mine will facilitate if you wish it. Then if not, you have been gifted nothing more than blood, given out of hospitality. She nods, self-assured, before picking up her cup to sip it.
Arnulfus looks at her, still scowling, but his expression is less menacing as it is rather dumb. So, argue to kill the heretic, and then crusade.
She glances. The rightful heir, Alexis, seeks the support of Latindom, of the Christian Crusaders, and before long he will find such support, especially should you give voice. Ensure that he is safe. And should your allies speak out against him, be sure that they do not. He will see to use the crusade to reclaim his throne.
You want me to do what
And
to
in
my
so-
friends?
You need not destroy them. You need only convince them that this is for the best. Or do as you please, without their knowing. What is important is that Constantinople fall, and Michael the Patriarch is no more for his crimes. As she speaks, she is sure to look you in the eyes, impressing upon you her sincerity.
So, help Alexis argue, and then help him kill the heretic.
Oui. Very simple, isn't it? You are given no power save up the power of opportunity. What you do with it then is up to you.
Do you need me to agree, or just do it when it happens?
Do it when it happens. Nothing more.
Fine. I'll kill the heretic. My allies would probably do it with me. We can take turns.
Bene. Bene. Constantinople is an affront, and once it is dealt with, the world would be better for it. And then there will be a sympathetic ruler of Christendom on the throne. You will find your redemption in the eyes of God by your own doing. I will leave you only with a single parting gift before you go. If you will take it.
What?
Looking to the man who cut himself, she snaps her fingers. She motions. Reclining back into her seat, she sips her cup, now looking away from you. The man soon comes back with a wrapped sword. Use this when you enter Constantinople, and not a moment soon. It must not be known that you possess such a weapon. Otherwise, you will be hunted.
By them?
By everyone. Keep it hidden. If you wish, we will smuggle it into the city of Constantinople for you. We have our ways. You must then only retrieve it before the battle begins.
Can I use it after?
Yes, you may keep it after. She gestures her hand out to it for you to examine the blade.
I pick it up and give it a look over, a few practice flourishes, swings.
You immediately recognize that you hold in your hand a very famous sword from the First Crusade. That which belonged to none other than the infamous king of Edessa, of the principalities of Antioch. His nephew's sword, a crusader's sword. This is a blessed blade. Put it to good work.
All work in the name of God is good work. Smuggle it.
Will you have it smuggled into the city for you to find, or will you carry it with you?
Smuggle it.
It will be waiting for you. A sign will be left for you. When first you enter the city of Constantinople, there will be an image carved. That of the old signet of Roma. Find it, and you will find the message to where the sword is. It will be well hidden, but it will be there.
Arnulfus slowly lowering the blade back to the man. A seriously quizzical look on his face. The cogs turning, almost smoke coming out of his ears as he tries to imagine what the hell kind of symbol she's talking about.
As you look back to her, you see a sudden impression of the old Roman Pax Romana, of Julius Caesar gleaming in your eye and upon a golden coin. Your vision returns as you blink, and she smiles at you. End of session.